Hey everyone, welcome to Microsoft SharePoint Online. During this series of modules or courses, we're going to learn all about SharePoint Online and how you can manage and share content and also create really engaging web pages using this amazing platform. We're going to discuss what it's like to be a typical user in a SharePoint site and also a site owner. This is a great course to go through if you're looking to create your own SharePoint sites and manage them. Also, if you're going to become a new SharePoint site owner, you'll be amazed at the great potential that SharePoint Online has for both the site owner and the end user. So join us on our journey through SharePoint Online. Hi everyone, welcome to our first module in our Microsoft SharePoint Online series. This class is designed for someone who is new to SharePoint. In this course, we're going to explore how to access SharePoint Online through Office 365. After completing this course, you should be able to understand why to use SharePoint Online, the different roles in accessing SharePoint, how to log into Office 365, and also successfully navigate in a SharePoint Online site. As always, if there are any exercise files that go with this course, you'll find them in the video description. So join us on our SharePoint Online journey. Hi everyone, welcome to our Module 1 of SharePoint Online. Now the first thing we need to do to access SharePoint Online is actually go into another Microsoft platform called Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft 365. In 2017, Microsoft introduced a line of subscription web-based services through Microsoft that also includes Microsoft Office, and they called it Office 365. It's been recently renamed to Microsoft 365, but one of the doorways to SharePoint Online is to go through Office 365. Now, the other thing we'll be doing is accessing SharePoint. And just a reminder of what SharePoint Online is. There are previous versions of SharePoint that have been created by Microsoft over the years, but now we're looking at a web-based platform called Microsoft SharePoint Online. SharePoint Online is also a cloud-based service. Some organizations use it in conjunction with Microsoft 365, and some of them use it as a standalone web-based application or platform. But the great thing about SharePoint Online is that it really helps organizations to share and manage content and knowledge by empowering teamwork, quickly helping them to find information, and creating seamless collaboration through the web. So the first thing we need to do is access Office 365. To do that, we're going to be logging into the office.com site. In my training environment, I'm going to be using Microsoft Edge. This is a Microsoft training platform, but you could really use any browser you prefer. For example, Microsoft Edge or even Google Chrome. Now I'm going to go ahead and click right here and go into my browser. Now as I do this, I'm going to come up to my address bar and type in office.com. This is going to take you directly to the login page for M365 or Microsoft 365. Right here I need to click on sign in, and then of course I'm going to paste in my email address. I'm playing the lovely Megan today, and then I'm going to click on next. I'll need to provide my organizational email address because I will be logging into a work Office 365 account. It'll also ask me about reducing the number of times I have to sign in. This is a great thing to do, and I do suggest checking this box because if you sign into different applications that are part of Office 365, this will help you not have to log into each one separately. Now we're going to be going to my home base or my Office 365 homepage. So let's just really briefly look at a few common elements of this homepage. Number one, top left-hand corner, I have the app launcher. Next to it, I might see my organization's name and then that I'm in Office, but this is the online version of Office. So again, this will be our jumping point to get into SharePoint Online. Hi everyone, welcome back. Now, if you've already logged into your Microsoft 365 account, it's really easy to get back using your default browser because your computer is going to remember that you've already logged in using your company password and also your email account. So I'm going to click back here again on my browser of choice, which is Microsoft Edge, and this is going to take me into my browser. Then to access, again, my Office 365 account, I'm going to come up here and just type in office.com. This time it's going to remember that I've already logged in and not require me to log in again. Let's look at some more common elements that you're going to see when you log into Microsoft Office 365. In the top right-hand corner, you're either going to see your profile picture or your initials. I'm playing Megan Bowen right now, so we're seeing cute smiling Megan up there. Not every company will put your profile picture in there, but some of your companies will allow you to do that. It's also important to remember that I've logged into a work or school account. That's why sometimes people call Office 365 their Microsoft for work or their Microsoft for school. But it's also important to remember that when we're talking about Microsoft 365, we're talking about web-based applications. These are cloud-based applications, meaning that all you need for them to run is actually your computer, a web browser, and the internet. And this is one of the really powerful things about the cloud revolution that's begun happening is we don't have to be actually logged into the same computer all the time. Our information can be accessible through a website. Now, another thing we're going to see that's very common in the Office 365 homepage is it gives me access to things that I use all the time. So notice, for example, here I'm seeing files that I've recently opened or updated. Also, if I come down, I'm going to see basically a list of files that I might need to access. And you'll see here that it's telling me I recently accessed these files and have worked with them. So it's basically giving me a jumping board to get back to them again. If I scroll down towards the bottom, I'm also going to see options where I can go in and see all my content. This is really kind of a jumping board, like you've heard me talk about, to get to files I work with a lot and also the online versions of the Microsoft applications. Now, speaking of those, let's scroll back up to the top and notice that in my case, I have an option here to install Office. Now, chances are this has already been done for you on your computer, but the idea is that with Microsoft 365, the way that my organization has it set up, I also get access to Outlook, OneDrive for Business, Word, Excel, and other Microsoft applications. So Microsoft 365 works in conjunction with my Microsoft Office desktop applications. Remember, when we say the word desktop, we're talking about the Microsoft applications that install locally on your computer's hard drive or a network, and they would require you to be on that specific computer to access the software. Now, again, this is a great opportunity to check Office 365 out. So go into your own computer, and if you have an Office 365 account, try logging in to office.com and spend a little bit of time exploring this homepage and see all the great things that are packed in it. Hey everyone, when it comes to Microsoft 365, it's amazing how much you get. So the Microsoft 365 applications include a rich amount of tools and features and functionalities that help you do so many things just from your web browser. One great way to see some of the different applications that are part of the Microsoft 365 family is to come over to the left-hand side to what we call the navigation pane of your Office 365 homepage. You'll see over here on the left that I see a list of application tiles, and some of these are familiar. Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. But the thing to remember is that from the Office 365 homepage, these are doorways to the online or web-based applications. There are also going to be desktop applications that install locally on your computer. But this isn't all. There are actually more apps. If I come right here to the apps tile at the bottom and click on it, it will actually show me additional applications that I don't currently see in my navigation pane. Also, if I go to the very top left-hand corner, we're going to see a very familiar feature of Microsoft 365. This is called the App Launcher. Sometimes people give it other names like the Rubik's Cube or the Waffle, but the correct term is App Launcher. And from anywhere where you are in Microsoft 365, this allows you to see a list of all your M365 applications. If I come down to the very bottom, I'm going to see it say all apps. And this is a list of the different applications that are part of my organization's Microsoft 365 environment. Some of these I use all the time, and some of them I don't use as often. Now, when I come back and look at this list, I'm not going to see all of them on the list. When I go to all apps, I see everything I could potentially use. If there's something in this list that I'd like to add to the main menu, I can actually come to the item, the app and the app tile in this case, and I'll see a vertical ellipses on the side of it. This is going to take me into a menu for options to manage this particular app tile. If I select Pin to Launcher, what this does when I return back to the main menu is it takes that particular app tile and it pins it. In this case, I've actually pinned the Lists application, which is a great way to create lists to put in SharePoint sites, by the way. And I've pinned it to my app launcher, so the next time I need to go in and access it, all I have to do is click on it and it will be there. Now, in addition, if you've pinned something and then decide you don't need it, you can actually come to the tile, click on the three dots at the side and say Unpin from Launcher. This is not going to remove it from your All Apps list. Notice if I go back, I will still see good old Yammer down here at the bottom, but from my main app launcher list, I won't see it there anymore. So you can control which apps you see on the app launcher and which ones you don't. And again, it's a great way to really customize your Office 365 environment. Go in and check it out in your own account. Hi, everybody. Now, I know that this is a SharePoint course, but we want to spend just a tiny bit more time helping you understand how amazing the Office 365 homepage is. Over on the left-hand side in my navigation pane, I have the ability to create new content using Microsoft 365. When I click on this Create button, you're going to see that it gives me options to create new Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, even Excel files using the online versions of the Microsoft applications. So for example, if I need a new spreadsheet, I can click right here on Workbook. It's going to open up a new browser tab. Notice here that I still have my Microsoft Office 365 homepage browser tab open, but now Microsoft Excel Online has also opened in a browser tab of its own. I'm in a blank workbook and I'm ready to start working. Now, for example, if I want to start typing in this particular cell, all I have to do is click and start typing. Now, a few things that are unique about working in the Microsoft 365 applications. You're in a web browser, but you can still type and create new content. This content is automatically being saved to my OneDrive for Business, which is, again, my own personal work storage for files. Also, I don't have to worry about saving things because we're working in a web browser, so everything saves in the background automatically. Now, how can I know that's going on? Well, notice if I come in and add some additional information to the spreadsheet, in short increments, what I'm going to see it do up here is say saving. It happens so fast though, sometimes it's really difficult to notice that it's occurring, but everything is saving for me in the background as I do it. And as I mentioned, the default save location is OneDrive for Business. That we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, by the way. Now, if I'd like to give my spreadsheet an updated name, because right now it's defaulting to call it Book 1, I can actually click right here where it says the name, and I can just come in and type in the name that I want. And as soon as I hit enter, it's going to update the name because by default, it's going to give my new spreadsheets the same name as a new blank workbook. And now you can see that on the browser tab, I see the updated name. So again, as far as Office 365 goes, it's just like creating a spreadsheet on your normal computer, but you're doing it through a web browser application and you don't have to worry about saving things. And again, this is something that you can try out yourself. Go into Office 365 and try using one of the Microsoft Office 365 applications. It's a great way to get familiar with the platform. All right, what if you need to find something in your Office 365 homepage? Well, Microsoft has you covered. It has one of the most powerful search capacities of any website I've ever used. When you do a search on your Microsoft Office 365 homepage, it's not only going to be searching through the titles of files, it searches through their contents. Let me show you what I mean. Up here at the top of my Microsoft 365 homepage, I have a search button. When I click on it, I'm going to type in the name of a contract that I've been working on in this company. You'll see that it already starts looking for search results for me. But I want to delve even further into these search results, so I'm going to come right here and select Show More Results. It's going to take me to a comprehensive list of search results, and it actually filters them for me. So convenient. The first tab is all the content. And notice I could come in actually right here and filter even by PDFs and photo types. If you come down, you'll see other options as well. But if you'd rather just use the tabs, you can actually work your way to the right. The first tab is for any files that have that word Northwind either in their title or within their contents. So we won't see it actually in all the titles because in some places it actually appears within the content. And you'll see here where it shows me a little quick quip or a little shot of where the word is occurring within the content of the file. Then I have sites. These would be SharePoint sites where this word is located within the site. I actually don't have any. When I go to people, these would be people that are involved with the Northwind project, and it includes both their email address and a phone number. News are going to be news postings on SharePoint sites. And you can see here how the word Northwind is actually occurring within the text of that particular news posting. Conversations is an interesting one. You'll see this includes content from Outlook and also from Microsoft Teams. And this is where the word Northwind has been included in either email content or within a Teams chat or a posting within a channel. You might be saying, that's not part of Microsoft 365, but believe it or not, it actually is. Especially if your company is using Exchange Online, all of your Outlook information is now housed online and is part of your Office 365 account. And this is my favorite one, images. You're going to see here a ping or a screenshot of what we call a dashboard. But in this screenshot, again, this is just a picture, we see the word Northwind actually inside. And so it comes up in the search results. Isn't that cool? It's actually looking through not only the words, but it's looking through images and finding words in the images. Now, the final thing I want to show you here is Power BI. This is a dashboard report building tool that's part of Office 365, and I actually don't have any Northwinds inside any of my current dashboards or reports, but if I did, they'd come up in my search results. Now, if I want to actually go back and open one of these files up, notice I can come in, I can search based on file type. I can also come in and filter based on the last time the file was modified. And based on that information, that will help me to refine my search results. And if I see something that I want to open up, all I have to do is come in, click on it, and it opens in again the browser-based version of the application. So in this case, it's Excel Online that's opened, and I'm able to access the content because you'll never see something surfaced in the search results of Office 365 that you don't have permission to access. When I'm done, all I have to do is click on the Browser tab for Excel Online to close the search results, go back to my Office 365 homepage, and if I actually just come back over to the left-hand side and click on the Home button that's right underneath my app launcher, it'll clear my search. But the big takeaway from this is that searching in Office 365 is global through your entire Office 365 account. And we can do this right through a web browser. So it's super cool. If you have access to Office 365, go into your own account and try it out and see how powerful the search can be. Hi, everyone. Now with Office 365, what can you do to customize the environment and get to your stuff? This is a great question. First of all, if I go to the top right-hand corner of my Microsoft 365 homepage, you're going to see a little white gear. This is something that you will see throughout Office 365 web-based applications. This represents the way to basically get into your defaults for your Microsoft 365 account. When you click on it, you're going to see it open up a settings task pane. When I come in, I can do things like update, for example, the theme of my Microsoft 365 account. You can see how it's added it here in the background. Also, I can go from the default color scheme of Microsoft 365 to dark mode. This is actually really good for people that might be visually impaired or colorblind. So there's a reason for it. And believe it or not, it's supposed to be easier on your eyes when you're staring at a screen all day. I'm going to keep mine on the default, which is the white on white background. You'll also see some other options like change your password, but keep in mind some of these settings may be controlled by your IT department to keep things secure and safe. When I'm done making these changes, I can come up to the X in the top right-hand corner and click on it, and the settings pane will close. Now, another place that you can go to get information about your Microsoft 365 account is by going up to your initials or your profile picture that are directly to the right of the settings gear. This will let you know whose account you're logged into, and if you want to see, for example, your account information, if you click on View Account, it will open it up and actually take you in so that you can see your account information inside of Microsoft 365. This all opens in its own separate browser tab, and that's the thing we've got to remember about Microsoft 365. It's a browser-based application, so everything runs inside the web browser. We're going to close that tab and go back to our home page. Now, another great thing they've added recently is the My Content folder tile. This is over in the navigation pane. I love this because when I click on it, it's going to take me to a list of recent files that I've used and different areas of Microsoft 365 that I've accessed. So any file from any application that I've opened using Office 365, I'll see on this list, and it's a great way to quickly jump to the file or to the location. All I have to do is come in and click on it, and it's going to open. Of course, it will use the Microsoft 365 version of the application to open. So this particular Word document opened in Word Online in its own browser tab because that's what it will default to. We are using a web-based platform, so it's going to default to the web-based applications. The other thing that's really powerful about this platform is that it will interface with your desktop applications. And I just want to show you that briefly so you can have ease of mind that you're not going to lose the ability to get to them. I'm going to open this PowerPoint presentation, and of course it's going to open in good old PowerPoint web application or PowerPoint Online. But if I would prefer to edit this presentation in the desktop version of PowerPoint, as long as PowerPoint's installed on my computer, notice that next to the ribbons of PowerPoint Online, I have an editing button. This lets me choose how I will have this file be edited. So right now I'm in editing within the browser-based version of PowerPoint, but I can also come down and select Open in Desktop app. What will happen is my computer will actually launch Microsoft PowerPoint. It's not open right now, so it can take a few moments for it to open. But the other great thing about this is then the same PowerPoint presentation that was just opened in PowerPoint Online will actually open on my desktop. So notice down here, I see good old PowerPoint's open, and it's the exact same PowerPoint presentation. A few unique things happen when you do this. When you open something that's been stored from an online source, now in a desktop app, your autosave button will be turned on to let you know that if you make any changes, for example, if I come in and add some content, it will automatically save this back to wherever this particular PowerPoint file is stored online. If I close it, everything's still going to be saved, and it will take me back to PowerPoint Online. If I say continue here, it will refresh, and what we'll see is any changes I made to the file in the desktop platform are still being added to the file here, because it doesn't matter if the file's open in PowerPoint Online or in PowerPoint Desktop. It's both saving back to the internet and to my Microsoft 365 account. It's really powerful because you get the best of both worlds. You can use PowerPoint Online, you can use PowerPoint Desktop. It doesn't matter, and you can choose which one you utilize to update your files. Check it out. Welcome back, everyone. I want to show you one of my favorite tools that's part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem and is also important to Microsoft SharePoint Online. It's actually called a Microsoft 365 group. Now, groups are a service that work inside Microsoft 365. They help you really to connect different tools that you need to collaborate. With a Microsoft 365 group, you can take a group of people and actually write documents, create spreadsheets, work on project plans, even schedule meetings or send email to that group of people. So it's more than just a glorified inbox for a group of people because it allows you to do many more things. Also know that Office 365 groups are actually really important in things like Microsoft Teams, SharePoint team sites, and even inside of the Planner application when you want to share a plan with coworkers. So first of all, where are some of the doorways to access a Microsoft 365 group? One of the really common places is through Microsoft Outlook. Now we're going to start by using Outlook Online. So I'm actually going to come over to my navigation bar in Office 365. I'm on my home page and I'm going to click on the Outlook tile. This is in a separate browser tab, is going to take me into Outlook on the web or Outlook Online. This is, of course, all the great utility of Outlook, but from a web browser. Now, inside of Outlook Online, to access my groups, I'm going to come over to my folder pane. Remember that this is going to be next to your navigation bar, and it's not uncommon for it to be minimized. So make sure it's, again, full so that you can see the folder task pane. Then to access your groups, you're going to want to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now you'll see that groups are also something that can be expanded and collapsed. So make sure that you have them open so that you can see them. Now, what exactly are these groups? Well, first of all, they have a name. And in most cases, they are a group of people inside an organization that need a way to collaborate, doing things like sending email to each other, having a shared calendar, and even using other tools like a plan inside of Microsoft Planner. Now, can I include guests in my groups? I can if that's been turned on by your Office 365 admin, but let's just take a minute and look at some of these groups and the tools that you get with them. The first thing I want to do to access my group is click on its name. Now, when I do that, I leave my inbox and I actually come to an inbox specific to my group. Notice it has the same name as my group. Now, some people might look at this and say, oh, great, another glorified distribution list or email group. Office 365 or Microsoft groups are actually a lot more than that. The first thing, though, that you can do is send email. So if I come right here and click on the send email button, it'll actually allow me to send an email to everyone who's part of my group. Notice how my group has an email right here that's specific to them, and anyone who's part of this group will get this email. There are a lot of additional great tools that you can get with groups, so we're going to explore that in a future lesson. So make sure you come back, and if you have access to Outlook on the web, try going in and seeing if you have any groups. Hi, everyone. While we're exploring Microsoft 365 groups, I want to show you some of the great collaboration tools that come with this service. So right now I'm in Microsoft on the web or Outlook Online. And I'm going to access my groups by going over to my folder pane and scrolling down towards the bottom where I see the different groups that I have access to. The group that I want to go to is called my Mark8 Project Team group. This is actually a group created for this company internally to help a group of people manage a project that they're working on. I see some great information at the group up at the top of the group name. I'm going to see that it's a public group. This means that it's discoverable to other people inside my organization using tools like the Delve application. It also shows me how many team members I have inside my group. Now, beyond sending group email like we've already explored, another great thing that a group can do is give me a shared repository for files that this group needs to work on their project. To access that area, I'm come directly to this little piece of paper button. This is actually a way to go to the shared files that this group has in common. When I click on it, it takes me to what's called a document library. This is actually part of a SharePoint site, but we're able to access it here from inside the Outlook web application, which really helps to streamline things, because if I'm sending an email and think about one of the files I need to work with this group, I can automatically get to it. The top, I'm going to see recent files that different group members have worked on recently. And then down below, I'm going to see the files and folders that the group has shared in common as part of this group experience. Another great tool is a shared calendar. So I'm going to come up now again and click on the shared calendar button. This takes me into another browser tab for the calendar web application. And it's going to take me specifically to the group calendar that's been set up. Notice over here on the left that my Mark8 Project Team group calendar is checked off, and I can see all the different calendar events that again are viewable and editable to any member of our group. If I close the tab, it will take me back to Outlook on the web. Now, I have some additional really awesome tools here that I want to show you that are part of the collaboration that a Microsoft 365 group provides. I'm going to come again up to those same buttons that allowed me to access the group calendar and the email, and I will see an ellipses. We see these all over in Office 365. They help us get to other great tools. When I click, another one of the tools that a group will have in common is an empty OneNote notebook. This is created when the group is created, and it allows them to have a notebook where they can do things things like add meeting minutes, store FAQs, and again, it's part of the group experience, and every member of the group has permission to access this notebook. You'll see right here the name of the notebook is always part of the group name. And again, it's a great way for the group to have collaboration. To exit out of the notebook, all I'm going to do is just click on the browser tab and I'll go back to Outlook on the web. We'd love to have you try this out, so please go into your Outlook online and see if you have any current groups that you're part of and explore it. Hi everyone, we're back in Outlook Online exploring Microsoft 365 groups. There's still just a couple more great collaboration features inside a group that I want you to see. So from the Outlook Online or web application, I'm going to come to my folder pane and again, travel down to the bottom where I can see the different groups that I'm part of. In the Mark 8 project team group, we've already explored that groups allow you to have a shared inbox for every member of your group, also shared files, and even a shared calendar. And if we come to the ellipses under the group name, we're also going to see a thing called Planner. Now, Planner is a task application that's part of your Microsoft 365 platform. And when you click on Planner, it opens up the Microsoft Planner application inside of a browser tab. Now, Planner is a great application for viewing tasks inside of what are called buckets. So here I'm seeing a plan that's already been created for my Microsoft group, and it allows every member of the group to be able to access the plan, go into the different tasks that are part of this plan and edit the tasks and work on them together. When I'm done viewing my plan, I'm going to click back on the little X to close the Planner app and go back to Microsoft again in Outlook Online. From here, the next item that you have access to from an Office 365 group when you click on the ellipses is a site. And notice the letter S next to this. This is actually our SharePoint Online logo that we're going to see as we start exploring SharePoint Online in more detail. When I click on Site, I'm going to see another browser tab open. This is taking me to a SharePoint site, and it's actually what we call a team site. It's a site that's been created to allow my Microsoft group to have a place to collaborate within a website. And right here, I'm actually seeing the plan that I was just inside of the Microsoft group. So another, again, element or collaboration function of a group is a SharePoint site. Now to go out of the SharePoint site, I'm just going to click on the X on the tab and it will take me back to Microsoft again and back to the Microsoft Outlook web application. What we're going to explore next is how to create groups. So again, try going into Outlook Online and see if you are part of any groups. Welcome back, everyone. We want to now look at how easy it is to create your own Microsoft 365 group. For this, I'm in Outlook Online or Outlook on the web, and I'm going to come over to the folder pane and scroll down to the bottom to access the different groups that I'm already part of. Down towards the bottom, I'm going to see that there are options to allow me to create a new group, discover groups, or manage groups that I'm part of. To make a new group of my own, I'm going to select New Group. This is going to take me into where I can give my new group a name. As I do this, it's going to create an email account for my group. I can update this by just changing this name up here. I'm also going to include a description. This would help other people if they were discovering my group to know what my group is about. Now, before I'm done, I also want to come in and edit the default settings of my group. This has to do with the privacy of my group. So when I click on edit, we're going to see that I have two choices for the privacy setting. Private would mean only members of the group can see what's going on inside. Public would allow other people to view what's going on inside of the group. Both of these settings will allow people to request or join the group. I'm going to keep my group private because I'd like more control, and I only want people who are part of the group to know what's going on inside. The final setting is, do you want members of your group to receive notifications in their inboxes when there are group conversations or events going on? I'm going to turn that off because it can add a lot of traffic to my inbox and to my group members' inboxes, and I'm going to click on create. Now, I'm not done because the next thing I need to do is invite, again, coworkers and others to join my group. Now, this right here is a list of people who are already part of groups that I'm in, and I can just double click on their names and it will automatically add them. But then I can also come in and just start typing in the first few letters of a coworker's name. And it will also allow me from my company address list or Active Directory to add people to my group this way. I can always come back in later and edit this group membership after the group's already been created. It's really easy to do. Let me quick and just add a few more people to my group. Now, if someone is outside my organization and my company allows for guests to be added to my group, I can type in their email address up here and it will allow me to add them. When I'm done adding everyone to my group, the one last choice I need to make is if I want some additional owners. Notice next to each group member's name, they can either be a member or an owner. I'm going to make both Lydia and Patty owners. Now, what's the difference between a member and an owner? A member can fully participate in all the group's great functionality, but an owner is actually someone who can edit the membership of the group. So owners have a little bit more ability to do things. Also, if you create the group, you'll automatically be, again, an owner of the group. Now I'm going to click on add. We're going to see that when I'm done, my group is going to be created. In fact, it takes me directly to my group. Notice right here, we can see, again, my group over here on the left. If I click on it, also, if I want to access that group, all I have to do is come in here, click on the three dots at the side, and come down to settings. Settings allows me to go in and again, decide how those, if you notice right here, how I decide how notifications will be sent for the group. And also, if I want to come in and edit the group itself, I can also come right here and edit its name. Now, we'd love to have you try this out, so go ahead and try creating a group of your own inside of Microsoft 365 and start using some of the great functionalities. Welcome back, everybody. I want to show you how to manage Microsoft 365 groups. So from Outlook Online, I'm going to come over to the groups that I'm already part of in my folder pane. Now, what I have here is the ability to discover groups. These are going to be groups that I'm not currently part of. Right here, I've already come in and I'm going to type in the name of a group that I'd like to join. I've just typed in US and then I'm going to come down and you'll see here there is a group that I'm not currently part of that it's giving me an option to request to join. It's even showing me a contact card so I can see who's currently part of this group. When I click on request to join, I can include a message that will allow me to become part of that group. And then one of the owners of the group will have to give me permission to join. To leave a group, what I need to do is come into the settings of the group. So I'm actually going to come down to one of the groups that I no longer need to access and click on the group. Now at the top, I'm again going to see the name of the group, whether it's public or private, but also the ellipses that allows me to get into the settings for the group. I'm going to come down to the settings gear, and on the right, I'll see my group settings task pane open. Notice down here at the bottom, it gives me an option to leave this group. This would mean that I would no longer see this group over in the list of groups that I'm part of on the left-hand side in my folder pane of Outlook Online. Now finally, what about just managing all the different groups that I'm part of? For this, I have a Manage Groups option. When I click here, it's going to take me and show me the different groups that I'm currently part of. In fact, it refreshes and opens up the People application because this is where my group membership is managed from. As I come in and look at the different groups that I'm part of, if I'm an owner of a group, I'll see that. So when I come here, I can see that there is, again, a list of the group members. And if I expand it out, it actually takes me in so that I can see each individual member and if they're an owner or a member. Remember, you can also have guests depending on the security inside of your organization's Office 365 or Microsoft 365. So right here, I could actually come in and take one of my current members of my group and make them an owner. And remember, owners are people who can manage the settings of the group. When I'm done, all I have to do to access my group is just close my People app. It will update all those settings and allow me to come back in, and in normal Outlook Online, I can start managing my groups from there. So remember, groups are a tool to help you collaborate. The reason we're showing you how to get to groups from Outlook is because we use Outlook for so many things already. It's a great place for all the different collaboration options of groups to come into play because you're already in the Outlook Online web application. And try it out on your own. Create some groups and start using them to help you manage products, or I should say projects within your organization. Hi, everyone. We've been exploring Microsoft 365 groups, and we've been doing it from Outlook Online. But another great doorway to your Office 365 groups is from inside Outlook Desktop, because we know a lot of organizations use Outlook Desktop because it gives you all the great tools that we're used to in an email platform. Now, I'm inside Outlook Desktop, and I want to access my groups. Notice over here that I have my folder task pane open, and if I come down towards the bottom, I'm going to see the groups that I'm part of inside my organization. Now from here, all I need to do to access a given group is actually just click on its name, and we'll see that specific group's inbox open. So again, this is the shared inbox where we can receive mail through our group. And then up on the top, I'll see the home ribbon tab is going to customize because I'm now in a group. I'll see buttons that allow me to access the shared calendar that's part of my group experience. It will open in its own separate window. So we're seeing all the calendar events that are specific to my Mark 8 project team, the group that I have selected. I also have a doorway to the shared files that are available through or complements of SharePoint Online. And when I click on this, it will actually take me to my SharePoint site associated with my group and into the files and folders that this particular group has in common. And this will, of course, take me online. Now, the other option I have is to get to my OneNote notebook that's part of my group experience. This will take me to OneNote Online. So this is the online version of the OneNote application. And I haven't yet put any content in my notebook, so it's empty. And last but not least, the other doorway I have is to the group settings that you'll see here. These allow me to go in and add members to my group, edit my group settings, and again, really decide how I will get notifications about the group. Now, is there a way to discover new groups while you're inside Outlook Desktop? There is. I'm going to go back to my inbox and up to my home ribbon tab and come over to the far right-hand side to the ellipses. We can't escape it, right? From the ellipses, you'll see that there is a Browse Groups option. This is going to take me to groups inside my organization that I might or already be part of, or are again, public groups where I could either request to join. These could also be private groups, I need to say, or I can just automatically join them. So for example, if I want to join the all company group, I can click on join and it will automatically add me to the group. If there's a group that I need to request before I can join it, I will have to again type a little message. But again, we're seeing that you can access all the great utilities of groups for the most part from Outlook Desktop if you'd like to use this as your doorway to get to them. But again, everything is really happening because of Office 365. So please go in and try accessing groups, creating some groups of your own. They're a great collaboration tool. Hey everyone, welcome back. Now, part of your Microsoft 365 account is called your Office 365 profile or Microsoft 365 profile. With your profile, Microsoft keeps track of where you go, files that you work on, even people that you work with inside your organization. Now, this might sound scary, but it's not. They use an application called Delve to help you manage this information, and it's really made to help you discover and organize the info. The other thing to know is that Delve is never going to change any permissions. You'll only see documents that you already have access to, and other people will never see your private documents. Now, how do we access the Delve or the Microsoft 365 profile inside of Office 365? Well, from my homepage, I'm going to come to the top right-hand corner to my picture or initials and click. And down here, I'll see a hyperlink that will give me access to my Office profile. When I click on this, it's going to take me to an application called Delve. Now, the screen that I'm on right now is all about the person I'm playing, who is Megan Bowen. So we're going to see that it shows us her email address, her contact information. And if I'd like to update any of this content, I can click right here on Update Profile, and it will take me in so that I can see the different information that Megan's provided. And if I want to add to it, I can. Keep in mind that depending on the info that you provide, some of it might be discoverable to your coworkers. Now, if I'm done updating this information, I can come right here and click back on my name, and it will take me back to the main Me screen. From here, I'm going to see great information like recent documents I've worked on, and also below people that I've recently worked with. And you'll also see here that if I hover over one of these people and click, it will actually take me to an informational page about that person. So Delve is also about helping me find people that I work with and contact them. It's not about surfacing anything I don't have permission to see. Now there's one more view in Delve called the home screen. When I go to my home screen, I'm going to see recent documents that coworkers have worked on. They're going to appear on little cards that are called content cards. And the idea is that it tells me the type of file, when it was last updated, and also where it's stored. You're going to see that at the bottom of these files, I have options to add these files to my favorites. Over here on the left, you'll see my favorites view, if it's something that I would like to go back in and work on later. Also, you'll see here that I can actually create my own cards through boards. And if I see a file that I would like, for example, to send a link to someone to, it gives me that ability. If there's something here that I would like to open, I can actually come to the file name, click on the file, and in this case, using PowerPoint Online, the file is going to open up. It will only let me open files that I have permission to open. When I'm done viewing the file, I can click on the X and the file will close. So Delve is all about helping me to manage my information within Microsoft 365 and also discover other people and files that other coworkers might be working on as well. Hi everyone, I want to show you how to access the Delve application from your Office 365 homepage. So I have several different options. Number one, I can come up to the search bar and type in Delve there, or I can go over to my app launcher and I can come down to all apps and it will of course be in my list. If it's an app that I'm going to access a lot, I can always of course make sure that it's pinned to my launcher, which it is. When Delve opens, it's going to open in its own browser tab. When I come in, I will always start on my home screen. This is where I'll see content cards showing popular documents that coworkers have recently worked on. And one thing I want to mention, if you're ever feeling nervous that Delve is going to surface content that doesn't belong to you or you don't want people to see, right down here, they actually have a little article telling you about how Delve works. This is just to help reiterate that yes, your documents are safe inside of Delve. Delve will never change permissions for your documents, and only you can see your private documents in Delve. And also, your files aren't actually stored in Delve. Delve is just the tool to help you access the files. I'm going to go ahead and close that because one of the things I can also do through Delve is discover files that might be helpful to me. I'm going to come here to the top left-hand corner and do a search. And this could be for any topic that someone that I've worked with or that I might be working on. And notice it's even making suggestions as I'm typing it in. If I come down and ask Delve to show all its results, I'm going to see that it's showing me both people that may have worked with the Northwind project. It's also showing me documents. And if I keep scrolling down, I can see it's all kinds of files. With any of these files, I can come in and bookmark the file to add it to my favorites. I can also come up and hover over a person. And when I click on their profile picture, it will actually take me to their profile page inside of Delve. So Delve is a great way for me to not only discover files, but also people. And any of those files that I favorite, I can actually come right here and click on favorites, and it will take me in and show me those files that I've favorited. And I'm never going to see a file that I don't have permission to see and access. This is also going to tell me where the file is stored. And if I want to open it, all I have to do is just click on the file's name, and using the online version of the application, it's going to open up. So Delve is not about, again, discovering anything that you shouldn't see. It's about discovering things that you should see. And again, locating people who might be subject matter experts that can help you get things accomplished more quickly. And again, when I'm finished, I can close the file and I can even close Delve and go back to my Office 365 homepage. If your organization does use the Delve application, go in and try playing with it and see what you can discover. It can be really exciting. Hey everyone, learning about SharePoint Online would not work if you don't understand another application that is part of your Microsoft 365 account called OneDrive for Business. It's also sometimes called OneDrive for Work or School. So what is OneDrive? OneDrive is really the cloud storage that is part of your Office 365 account just for you. It lets you store and protect your files and share them with others and get them from any device. When you use OneDrive for school or work, it's associated with your school or work email. Now, it's important to know that with Microsoft 365, you can get over 1 terabyte of space for storing your files. If your OneDrive library is hosted on a SharePoint server, then your organization's administration administrators determine how much space you have. But for many of us, we have a terabyte of space. I like to tell people OneDrive for Business is like having your own personal filing cabinet. Where you go, it goes, because it's stored in the cloud. So how do we access OneDrive for Business from our Office 365 homepage? Well, I, of course, can come right here and I can search for OneDrive. We're already going to see that OneDrive is represented by a blue cloud, which stands for cloud storage. I can also come over to my app launcher and I'll see OneDrive there as well. For me, OneDrive is really the heart of your Microsoft 365 account because this is where you store your stuff. It's the most personalized part of the platform. Now, when I come into my Microsoft 365 application, you're going to see that it opens in a browser tab. And a few common interface settings is that you'll see a command bar at the top. Also on the left, you're going to see a navigation pane. The default view in OneDrive for Business is called My Files. This is exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing My Files for work or school that are stored right here inside of this cloud storage. You're also going to see access to recent files that you've worked on, files that you may have shared with a coworker or have been shared with you, and a recycle bin. Now, it's also not uncommon under this to have other SharePoint document libraries that you also have permission to access. Again, these may not be turned on in your organization, but when you come into OneDrive for Business, if you see additional areas below your recycle bin, it's just because your organization also uses SharePoint, and it's giving you, again, a way to get to your SharePoint sites from inside OneDrive for Business. Now, as always, we'd love to have you try OneDrive for Business out yourself. So go to your organizational Office 365, Microsoft 365 homepage and try finding OneDrive and accessing it. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We've been looking at OneDrive for Business as we get ready to explore SharePoint Online. Now, I'm currently in my OneDrive for Business account. This is a OneDrive for Work account, and I'm seeing the different files that are, again, stored here. One of the great things you can do is manage your files from your OneDrive, and we're going to spend a little bit of time doing that. So up in the command bar, I'm going to see options to help me manage content. One of them is that I can create new folders and files using Office 365. I'm going to create a new folder. I can name it, and then I can take my files and store them inside the folder. Now, one of the ways I can do this is to drag and drop the applicable files in. I don't want to click on the file name because it will open. It's a hyperlink. Instead, I'm going to come to the left-hand side, and you'll see that I get a circle with a white check mark inside of it. This is my way of selecting these files without actually having them open. Once they're selected, I can hover over any of the file names, hold down my left mouse button, and drag the files up over the top of the new folder I've created, release my left mouse button, and it will move the files into that folder. You can see here in the top right-hand corner, it's telling me that's what I've just done. To open the folder up, I can click and I'll see the folder open and the files inside of it. So we can actually organize content using our OneDrive for Business web application. To go back out of the folder, I'm just going to come at the top and click on My Files because that's the view I'm in. Now, what about bringing content that's stored locally on my hard drive or a network drive into my OneDrive? For this, I'm going to use my Upload button. With my Upload button, I can upload files and folders. One warning with folders, if they're really large, you'll be using upload speed, which can really slow down your internet speed. So I would suggest uploading large folders when your computer's not busy doing things like attending a training or a meeting. We're going to click on Files and come in, and I'm going to locate the files that I'd like to upload. I have a couple of PowerPoint presentations. I'm going to use my Shift key to select 3 of them and then click on Open. Here in the top right-hand corner, we're going to see it's telling me it's uploading 3 files into that, again, into my OneDrive. When I upload, I am copying them. So the originals will still be back on my computer's hard drive. So a best practice would probably be to either delete those files or archive them. So I always make sure I'm not getting confused at which ones I'm working with. Now, the other thing that some people will do is synchronize their OneDrive files. Synchronizing can be important if you don't want to have to come to this site to be able to access your OneDrive files. It actually allows you, after you've synchronized, to access your files from your File Explorer. You only have to synchronize once on the device that you want to access them from. It takes a few moments. You're seeing me go through the process right now, and it may ask you to type in your password. But what it's going to do is actually take these files and make it so I can access them from my own File Explorer in my computer, and it can save a great deal of time. The first time you do it, like I said, it takes a few moments, but once you're synchronized, it can save time. When I'm done synchronizing, Office 365 will tell me that I'm finished. It even waves goodbye. Then to access these synchronized files, I'm going to actually go into my File Explorer. When I open up File Explorer, what I'm going to see is a new directory. Over here on the left in my folder pane, I now see it says OneDrive-Contoso. It will be the name of your school or your organization that you work for. And what's exciting is the files that we were just looking at through the OneDrive web application, I can now see all those files and folders right here from my File Explorer. If I want to open one of the files up, all I have to do is double click on it. And the other exciting thing that happens is rather than opening in Word Online, for example, the files will default to open in the desktop client. The autosave will be turned on because, again, the file's actually stored online in OneDrive for Business, but this allows me the best of both worlds, cloud storage and also the ability to utilize my desktop applications. If for any reason I do make some changes to the file, I'll see that it will automatically start auto-saving to my OneDrive because, again, it's open from cloud storage. And when I'm done, all I have to do is close the file without having to worry about saving. So synchronizing is a really powerful way to access OneDrive files without actually having to be in your OneDrive for Business web application. Hey everybody, back in OneDrive for Business, I want to show you how to quickly and easily share a file with a coworker. To share a file from the OneDrive for Business web application, which I have open, I need to select the file. So I'm going to come to the left-hand side. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I want to share with a coworker. There are multiple ways to share, but up in the command bar, you'll see a share button. Also, if you come to the ellipses next to the file's name, you'll have another option to share. Now remember, sharing is not like emailing a file that's attached through email, because when we email file attachments, it recreates a copy of the file once that person downloads it to open it. When I share a file through OneDrive, I'm giving my coworker or the person I'm sharing the file with a link to the file. It's not creating copies of it. Up here, notice I have to decide the type of link. In a lot of organizations, the only kind of link you can create is one that's internal to your org. That means only people inside your company or school could open that file up. Down here, another exciting option is that you can allow people to edit your file, or by unchecking this box, you can make it so they can't edit the file. You can also turn on the ability to block downloading the file. After I set those settings, I need to type in the name of the person I'm sharing the file with. This is a coworker, so I'm accessing their name through my company address list. Also, the strike through on the pencil means that it will be a view-only link that I'm providing to them. I can also type a message because they're going to get an email, and in that email, they'll get a link to my file, and then I'm going to click on send. After the file's been shared, we're going to see that in my OneDrive, one thing that changes, and I'm refreshing it just so you can see this, is that when we look at the file name, rather than saying private, it will say shared. And that's because any file in your OneDrive, you own that file as an employee or student of your school. When you share the file, you still own the file, but you're giving a coworker or fellow student access to it. Another place you can go to see files that you've shared or have been shared with you is the shared view over in your navigation pane. When you come here, there are two tabs. The first one is shared with you. These are files that you do not own, coworkers or fellow students own, but they've given you permission to access their files, either through an editable link or a view-only link. Shared by you, these are the files that you own. And we're seeing that PowerPoint that I just shared right here in this list. And this again is letting me see a list of all the files that I've either given coworkers permission to edit or view. And this is what makes, again, OneDrive for Business such a great platform, because not only can you store your work files and school files, but you can also give coworkers and fellow students access to them. So open OneDrive for Business up in your own OneDrive for Business account through Microsoft 365 and try sharing a file with a coworker. Hey everyone, with all the different parts of Microsoft 365 that we've explored, we're finally ready to actually explore SharePoint. So from my Microsoft 365 homepage, I'm going to come up to the search bar and type in SharePoint. Now, it's important to know that the version of SharePoint we're using here is SharePoint Online, as we've already managed. And remember, SharePoint Online is a cloud-based service that helps your organization to share, manage content, knowledge, and applications. And it's, in my opinion, the most powerful application that is in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Now, as I come to SharePoint, we're going to see that I'm still in Office 365. So I can see the app launcher. It's very common to see the name of your organization in the top left-hand corner, and also that I'm now inside of SharePoint. And if I look at my search bar, I'm going to see here that it also tells me that I'm in SharePoint. Now, this area that I'm in right now is called the SharePoint Start page. Instead of seeing a specific SharePoint site, what I'm seeing are content cards that allow me to see different news updates or sites that are part of my organization. It's a great way to explore what kinds of sites your organization has when you first start using SharePoint. Each of these cards represents a different site, and I'd never see a SharePoint site here that I don't have permission to access. To go into a specific site, all I do is click on the card and that specific site will open. Some additional features that you have here are the ability to go to the top right-hand corner of a frequent site, click on the star, and this will favorite that site and add it to the list of sites that you are following. So I can actually use this as a way to create my own list of common sites and make it very easy for me to access them by coming to this followed list. Additionally, another thing I can do from this SharePoint Start page is a search. If I come up here and do a search, and it can be for people, it can be for content, it can be for anything. It's a very, very global search because not only am I searching through SharePoint, I'm searching through my OneDrive. I'm searching through anything that's stored within my Microsoft 365 account. When I type in the word up here and I come to the results page, you're going to see that they are pre-filtered. There's an All tab and then a tab that shows me any files, any SharePoint sites that have that word with them, any people that have been associated with that word, any news feeds or updates, any images that have that word inside of them on text, and any Power BI reports or dashboards. This is one of the most powerful searches inside of Microsoft 365. When I come to files, for example, I can further refine my search results by picking a specific file type, applying that, and even going further by seeing files that have been recently modified. If I want to open one of these files, I can click on it and it's going to open up right for me using whatever online application is applicable. In this case, Word Online. So doing a search from the SharePoint Start page is very powerful. To get back, all I'm going to do is come right here and click on SharePoint and it will take me back to my SharePoint Start page. Welcome back, everyone. I'm ready to actually go to a SharePoint site and explore it. So up on my search bar, I'm just going to type in SharePoint. This will take me to the SharePoint platform and to my SharePoint Start page. From here, I'm going to see any sites that I frequently visit. And also, it's not uncommon down here to even have my IT department suggest sites I might want to access. Now, I have a few sites that I've favorited up here at the top. To access one of them, I'm going to click on it, and that site will open up. And again, the same browser tab as my SharePoint Start page. I'm now on a SharePoint site. This is what we call a SharePoint team site. Now, a couple of common features that you'll see in a SharePoint site. We're still inside of Office 365, so I see the app launcher. Also, notice right now, the search bar tells me that if I do a search, it will default to just search the site that I'm in. SharePoint is really good with keeping up with where you are and searching that area. Finally, in the top right-hand corner, I'm going to see who I'm logged in as. And then below that, we're going to see some additional important information. This is a public group, so it's what we call a public SharePoint site, which means other people in my organization can discover it and request to become members of the site. I'm also seeing how many members there are for this SharePoint site, which is something that we'll explore more in some future lessons. If you come over, I'm going to see the title for the site and a letter T next to it. It's not uncommon in a SharePoint site to have it attributed with a Microsoft team. This just gives the team a website to go with their team. Also, my navigation is on the left-hand side, and if I want to access any of the additional parts of this site, I can click and it will actually take me to that particular area of my site. I've just gone into the documents area of this site, which is a document library. I'll also see that there's a recycle bin. This allows me to delete content and then access it, a lot like your deleted items folder inside of Excel. So when you click on the recycle bin, that's where it would take you to any of those deleted items. This particular site doesn't have any right now, but if I deleted something, I would see it there. What we're seeing with a SharePoint site is that it's just like navigating in any website. We're just doing it in a website that's specific to our organization. To go back to the top of my site, I'm just going to come up and actually click on the logo for the site, and I'll go back to the top of my SharePoint site. So again, we'd love to have you try this out in your own organization. Go to Office 365, access SharePoint, and explore some of the different SharePoint sites that you have permission to access in your organization. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us in this first module of our SharePoint Online series. We have spent time exploring Office 365. We've spent time accessing the different applications that are part of our Office 365 account, and even spending time looking at how we can customize the app launcher. We've also spent time looking at the OneDrive for Business web application and also Delve. And again, we're seeing that with Microsoft 365, you have an entire ecosystem of applications that you can access from inside a web browser. We finalized our journey by actually going to a SharePoint page and looking at how easy it is from the SharePoint Start page to actually navigate to different sites that you have permission to access inside your organization. And we spend a little bit of time exploring how easy it is to navigate a SharePoint site, because really it's just a website. And now we're seeing how powerful SharePoint Online can be for helping organizations to bring users together and give them a platform where they can both customize and collaborate. Please join us for the next module where we're going to actually learn how to build SharePoint sites. Hi everyone, welcome to our Microsoft SharePoint Online Module 2. Whether you're managing existing SharePoint sites or you're getting ready to become a site owner, this course will complement your current situation. In this course, we're going to help you understand how existing sites can be managed. We're also going to look at how you can plan out your own new SharePoint sites. We want to help you get familiar with SharePoint Online terminology and also how you can create your own site navigation. We're going to be looking at creating subsites and even being able to delete and update site content. After completing this module, we want you to be able to understand site templates and also how you can use site collections to help you really create sites that are powerful. We also want to look at how to update site navigation and even delete and restore sites. Now, as always, if there are any course files, they will be below in the video description. So join us for this course. Hey everyone, welcome to SharePoint Online. Now there is a lot of terminology associated with the SharePoint Online platform. And as we're getting started exploring the platform in more detail, I want to help you have this, again, common terminology available to you. In our practice files, you will find a PowerPoint that has several of these terms in it. And I just want to share a few of them with you as we're getting started. One of them you'll see is the second bullet on this slide. It's a communication site. This is a really common type of SharePoint site that's made to share information with large groups of people. We're actually going to build a SharePoint communication site during this module. Another really common element that we'll see in SharePoint sites is called a library or a document library. It's basically a file folder full of files, but it can also have files inside of it. The great thing about document libraries is they give a place for SharePoint users to store all the content that they need as they work together. Another really common element is called a SharePoint list. I like to tell people that lists are like the spreadsheets of SharePoint Online. Lists are anything that can normally be stored in a table, so in rows or columns, you can put into a list. So lists can include everything from contacts to task lists to even lists of products. Now, in addition to these terms, you're also going to learn about things like a site. A site is a website in SharePoint Online. And anytime you go to a different page, that's called a site page. So all of these terms are available in this PowerPoint in our practice files. Also, you're going to see a link to the Microsoft glossary list for all of SharePoint, and it's much more detailed. But before I bore you with any more terms, let's actually get in and explore SharePoint some more. Hey everyone, welcome back to SharePoint. We want to spend some time getting familiar with some really common types of content in a SharePoint site. So from my Office 365 homepage, I'm going to come up and actually search for the SharePoint application. I'm going to click on it. It will take me to my SharePoint Start page. From here, I can go to any sites that I have permission to access inside of SharePoint. I have a few sites to the left that I've followed, and I'm going to select one of those sites. This sales and marketing site is a site that's been created for the sales and marketing department of my organization. And I want to point out some really common pieces of content on this site that we're going to learn to create during this module. Now, first of all, you're going to see the title of the site. up in the top left corner. This helps me to know that I'm in the right place. Also, every SharePoint site has a URL. This is, again, the website address. Remember, when you're in SharePoint, you are in a web-based platform, but I'd have to be logged into my Office 365 account to access this site. Now, on the left, I'm going to have my navigation. This is how I get to the different parts of my site. And what I'd like to do is take you to a really common piece of content called a document library. When I click on documents, it's going to take me to a list of folders and files that this department has stored inside their SharePoint site. This is great because it's cloud storage. Notice it's made up of folders and also all different kinds of files. These files do not have to be Microsoft related, but it allows everyone who is in this department to have a website for all their stuff. I like to call it a walk-in closet for the group that uses the site. Another really common element that we're going to see in SharePoint sites is called a SharePoint list. For this, I'm going to come over to my site navigation and go to product list. This is an example of a SharePoint list with products. Here I'm going to see information that would normally be stored in a spreadsheet, but here it's just right inside of my SharePoint site. You can see that it's a list of products, but everything is organized into rows and columns. It's a great way to give people who use the site quick access to the different products that this organization works with. And depending on their permission, they can also update this content, which means everyone else can also get to it. Now, a few other common elements in a SharePoint site. Notice in the top left-hand corner, we still see the app launcher. So we're still in Office 365 because this organization uses SharePoint Online in conjunction with their Office 365. Also, it tells me I'm in SharePoint. And don't forget the search bar at the top. This is a great way to look for content. Final thing to remember is that in the very top left, you're going to see the settings gear. We're going to use this a lot when we start to explore kind of the backside of our sites as a site owner. This will give you access to allow you to update and edit the contents of your site. So get into Office 365, navigate to a SharePoint site, and start looking for some of these common site elements so that you can get used to them. And we're going to start making some SharePoint sites. Hey everybody, we're ready to explore two of the most common types of SharePoint sites. The first one is a communication site. I actually have a communication site up on my shared screen right now. Now, what exactly is a communication site? In Microsoft 365, a communication site is a way to share news, reports, and status and other information in a visually compelling way. A communication site is really made to broadcast information to a broad audience. Usually, a communication site only has a small set of members that contribute content, but then that content is consumed by a much larger audience. A lot of intranet sites for organizations are actually made into communication site. When you create a communication site, a Microsoft 365 group is not created. So it's a great way for, again, an organization to convey information. Let's look at a couple of common things you're going to see in a communication site. When you come to this communication site, we can see the title in the top left-hand corner. And again, that we're still in the Office 365 ecosystem with the app launcher and that it's still part of the SharePoint platform. My navigation is here along the top. You're also going to notice that if I come over to the right-hand side, I don't see a list of members of this site because, again, this site is made to convey information. It's not as much made for collaboration. It's very common in communication sites as you scroll down to see things like news releases. Notice these allow me to get updates on important things that have recently happened in this organization. Other common pieces of communication sites are going to be including links to things that I might need as an employee of this organization. Also, if I scroll down a little bit, I'm going to see it's pretty common to have, for example, a calendar of things that are happening within my organization. And also, I'll see here even an opportunity, for example, to meet with leadership through, in this case, a chat pane to find out about what's going on. And sometimes this will be hosted by platforms like Yammer. But again, the communication site is about sharing information. It's not about collaboration. So go into your own organization's SharePoint and see if you can find any communication site. Howdy, everybody. Welcome back to SharePoint. We want to explore a common type of SharePoint site called a team site. Now, just a reminder, to get to any of your SharePoint sites, you can use your M365 homepage. I can either search for SharePoint here in my search bar or look for it over here in my navigation pane. Now, once I find SharePoint, I'm going to see different sites in my organization that I have permission to access here in the SharePoint Start page. I've actually favorited a couple of these sites, and a few of these are what we call a team site. I want to go into this team site called the Mark8 Project Team. Now, what exactly is the reason for a team site? Team sites allow you to connect you and your team together to share resources and content. Team sites are a great place to store and collaborate on files and even create and manage lists of information. So we're going to see some of these functionalities in this team site. Now, a reminder, we're still in, of course, the M365 ecosystem. I can see that because up here I have the app launcher, the name of my organization, and then, of course, a reminder that we're still in the SharePoint Online platform. But under that, I'm going to see the name of my site. This particular site has been created for a project group inside the Contoso Electronics organization. They're going to use this site to help them get things done. Now, a few common features in a team site are a left-hand side navigation. Also, when it comes to who can use this site, if you go to the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a list of team members. When you click on this list, you're going to see that some of them are team owners and some of them are members. But both a team owner and a team member have permission to edit content on this site at different levels. And this makes it really easy for me to come in and see who they are right here from the very top page of the site. Now, what are some other common, again, functionalities in a team site? Over here on the left-hand side in my site navigation, we're also going to see that it's very common to have a recycle bin in a team site. This is where deleted content goes. Right now, my, again, recycle bin is empty, but if I delete something, it will be stored in my recycle bin. It's important to know what the retention policy is for the recycle bin in your organization, so make sure you check with your IT team on that fact. Another common functionality in a team site is a team calendar. Part of this is because often team sites are going to be regulated by an Office 365 group that is helping to manage the membership of your team. This calendar will take me to Exchange Online and let me see a calendar that's been created for my Mark8 project team, where I can actually have calendar events that have been created for the team in common. Another common element you're going to see is a document library. Team sites, a really important part of what they do is to help the group of people using the site to manage the content there. So here we're actually seeing the different folders and files that this, again, site have in common. Every member of the team site and owner has access and permission to use these files. They can also co-author inside of them. Another common component in a team site is going to be a OneNote notebook. When a team site is created for a group of people, an empty OneNote notebook is created that can be accessed from the team site. And here we'll see it open up. It's empty right now, and it opens in OneNote Online. But the idea is that this empty notebook is available for the team members to use from their site to put whatever kinds of information they would like. And here we're just viewing the notebook before it's been used, but it's here, part of the site, ready for everyone to utilize and access very quickly from inside the, again, SharePoint site. Another common area that you'll see inside of a team site as well are going to be planner apps. Now, these planners are created, again, when the site is created. This particular one, when we open it up, will open in Planner. This is, of course, a task management application that's part of the Office 365 experience. Once you're inside, you'll see that if there is a plan attributed to this group, I can either create a new plan or I can actually go into a plan that might already be part of that SharePoint experience. And this is what the plan looks like. And think about it. When a group of people are working together to get something done, it's very common for them to need to know who's doing what. And that's exactly what the Planner app helps them to keep track of from their SharePoint site. So again, we're seeing that right from the SharePoint team site, there are multiple tools allowing this group of people to come together, collaborate on files, communicate about tasks, again, and get stuff accomplished. And that's the main reason for a team site. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Now, if you're ready to start creating some SharePoint Online sites, there's some strategy that you want to go through before you begin that process. When a site's content is logically organized and easy to find, it's going to be easier to maintain and manage. It also helps your site users to be more productive. So as a site owner, you need to plan out your site, and there needs to be some strategy involved before you get started. We're going to explore a couple of sites and look at some of the different components that have been used in the site's design to help make it easier for it to be maintained and also for users to be productive in the site. Right here, we're going to look at a site from the SharePoint starting page called The Landing. This is actually the intranet site for this organization, but it's SharePoint Online. One of the things the designer of this particular site has done is put the navigation at the top, across the very top. Now, this is again a choice that can be made. You'll notice that in other sites, the navigation will be along the left-hand side, like this sales and marketing site that's been created for a sales and marketing department. Putting the navigation in an easy-to-see place will help your users be able to get to what they need more quickly. Other questions you should ask yourself as you create a site are, what kinds of lists, libraries, or pages you want to create. Libraries can be used to store documents and files. Lists can be used to track issues or tasks. And pages are going to be the individual items within the site where you can display content. You'll see here that this particular site has a document library to help the members of the sales and marketing team to get to the files that they need to use. Another question to ask yourself is what kinds of apps you may want to include in your site. Apps help to support the users on the site and get things done. Apps do include document libraries and lists, but they can also include things like news feeds to help keep users up to date with events that are happening inside an organization or department, or even calendar events for upcoming events that might be occurring. All of these are topics that you need to explore and decide the best placement for such elements within your site before it's created. Remember, with SharePoint Online, you will have what's called a site collection, which means the different pages that make up your site, the document libraries, the different applications, all come together in a collection that is your SharePoint site. Everybody, you are ready to create your first SharePoint site. Now, keep in mind that to create a SharePoint site, you have to have permission to do so. In a lot of organizations, normal users cannot create SharePoint sites, and there is a request process that you need to go through, and your site will be created for you. A SharePoint admin or an M365 global admin can give you the ability to create sites through permissioning. Now, right now, I'm on my SharePoint start page, and in the top left-hand corner, I see two options. One to create a site and one to create a news post. So in this particular company, I do have permission to create SharePoint sites. Also, please remember before you create your SharePoint site that you've planned the kind of content and the type of site that you need. So I'm going to click on Create Site. On the right-hand side, a panel opens up asking me the type of site I want to create. Now, we've already explored these two, again, types of sites, but just a quick review. Team sites are about a site that's created for teams of people to collaborate together, share files, and basically get things done. A communication site is a portal to share information. Make sure you pick the right one. We're going to do a team site. Now, I need to name my site. After my site's named, I'm also going to see that underneath it's creating an Office 365 group and also a calendar. This group and calendar are important because they're going to help me manage calendar events and also communicate with the different users of my site using email. The other thing that's really critical here that's created is your site URL. This is something that cannot be changed very easily after the site is created. Your site name can always be updated later on. It's always a good idea to tell people about what your site is going to be doing. So I suggest filling in the site description, even though it's extra. Then the privacy settings. This is where you select how your site will be advertised to other people inside your company. If it's private, only members, people that you invite, can access your site. If it's public, anyone in the organization can see the site and access it. They won't be able to change content, but it will be viewable to others. We're going to keep it private because I want to be able to control who has access to my team site. Also a default language. Then I'm going to click on Next. Now remember, remember, I picked a team site. So at this point, I need to start typing in the names of my coworkers who will be able to access this site. As I type these coworkers' names in, they're actually populating from my company address list or my Active Directory. This makes it really easy for me to go in and quickly start creating the members of my site. These are, again, the people who will be able to access and edit content on my site. Now, notice as I'm typing these names in, that underneath their names, it's telling me that they are a site member. I can actually, at this point, before I'm even done creating the site, allocate either my different site members to be owners or site members. Now, I'm playing Megan right now. We can see her picture in the top right-hand corner. But what I want you to remember is that because Megan's creating the site, she will also automatically be assigned the role of a site owner. And in this case, I've also selected Patty. After the site's made, can I edit this list of site owners and members? Absolutely. And it's really easy to do. I'm going to click on Finish, and voila, my site will be made. Now at this point, if I close the different panels that are opening up, we can see my new training opportunities site. It's already up and running, and I already also have 6 members, including myself and Patty as owners. And my site is already ready to rock and roll. So if you can create sites, go in and try creating your own team site. Hey everyone, when you have a new SharePoint site, you may want to update the way it looks. One of the ways that you can do this is to apply a site template. Now, after your site's created, the site templates box will pop up, but also you can access it on your own in your new site. So here in my training opportunities team site that I just created, I'd like to go ahead and apply one of the site templates to this site. To do that, I'm going to go to my site settings. Site settings are located in the top right-hand corner of SharePoint Online directly from your SharePoint site. So they're really easy to get to. So I'm going to come up and click on this white gear located in the top right-hand corner of my screen. And when I do, I'll see a menu of different tools to help me manage my site. About fourth from the bottom in the top menu, I'll see Apply a Site Template. When I click on this, it will open up the site templates. Now remember, this is for my entire site. So if I select one of these templates, it's going to update all the content of my site. There aren't a whole ton. You'll see that there are 2 tabs at the top. One are templates that are provided by Microsoft. These templates are built around different core capabilities like event planning, project management, retail management team, store collaboration, team collaboration, training and development, and training and courses. Now, to select one of these, you just click on it. You'll see a details button. This will take you into where you get a little blurb helping to describe what the site does, also a preview of what it looks like. And then in the bottom right corner, you can click on the purple Use Template button, and it will actually update your site to this template. Now remember, if you've already added content to your site, the template will not delete anything, but it will update the color and add new content to your site. And you'll see that they come with a lot of pre-built content, including web parts, which we haven't explored yet, but we will, that can save you a tremendous amount of time. Now, after I use one template, if I'd like to try a different one, I just go through those same steps. Go to the top right-hand corner, click on the settings gear, come back down to Apply Site Template. The box will pop open, and now I can pick a different site template and apply it. So you can actually go through and try a few different ones until you find one that which you feel is applicable. Do you have to use site templates? Absolutely not. But one real benefit of site templates is they help to add a lot of content to your site very quickly, and then you can go in and customize the different content that is here. One last thing to mention about the site templates, when we go up to, again, the settings gear and go back down to the site templates options, is that when you're in the site templates box, there's also a tab for From Your Organization. These are going to include templates that your own organization has created for SharePoint sites. This particular company hasn't made any yet, and it's because they're so new to SharePoint Online. But this is something that eventually an organization might build out. So again, we want you to try this. Go into a SharePoint site that you've created and check out the site templates and try applying one of them to your site to look at all the great content and updates that it can make. All right, welcome back to SharePoint. We need to talk about subsites. Now, in older versions of SharePoint, it was very common to have a subsite, which is basically a site within a site, especially when you're looking at SharePoint Server 2010, 2013, 2016, 2019. Subsites were very popular for the overall layout of a site. However, with modern SharePoint in M365, we really want to steer clear of subsites. One of the reasons is that if you already have subsites and you're migrating to SharePoint Online and M365, it makes the migration process a lot more difficult. What SharePoint Online recommends instead is that you try to keep the architecture of your site flat. Instead of using subsites, we want you to utilize team sites, communication sites, and what's called a hub site to help keep the structure of your SharePoint site very flat. Now, that being said, if you need a subsite, you can still do that. So for example, in my training opportunities site, I'm a site owner, so I can create subsites. Also, I need to create a subsite for a specific group of people who would like to manage content separately, but within this site. To do that, I'm going to need to go into my site settings. So to do that, we're going to come into the site and go to the top right-hand corner to the settings gear. And then I'm going to access an area called Site Contents. Now, Site Contents is a great place to go to really see all the pages, document libraries, and different apps that are part of your site. You'll see when I come in that I'm looking at a list of the different components that make up my new SharePoint team site. At the top, there is a new button. This new button will let me do things like add lists, pages, document libraries, apps, and yes, the unmentionable, the subsite. We're going to select subsite. Now, when I do this, I actually go into a view of SharePoint that's a little bit different. But this is where I can create my new subsite. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and type in the name of this site. Notice I can include a description. Again, the description's arbitrary, but it can help other people know what this site is for. The other thing that's a little bit different here, it's more manual. I need to add everything in. Of course, I can copy and paste, but I even need to make sure that I come in and type in the rest of the URL. I'm going to pick the language that my site will be in. Additionally, the template it's based on. Notice here it can be a team site with no M365 group, or it can be a team site based on having, again, an M365 group associated with it. And then down below, is it going to have the same permissions as the parent site? And finally, a create button. So this will create my subsite for me. So when it's finished creating the site, I will see that I'm no longer in the parent site, but now I'll be in my new subsite that I've made. But again, we've got to keep in mind that Microsoft does not really suggest doing subsites. The other thing you'll notice about this new site that it's based on the classic experience because I based it on the classic template when I created it. So subsites are something you can do, but we don't recommend it. All right, everyone, we need to take a minute and talk about SharePoint Online URLs. Now, just like a doctor has to know the anatomy of a body, with a SharePoint site, you've got to understand the makeup of your website address or your URL. Now, if we come up here in this site, I'm in the sales and marketing team site of this organization. I'm in a Microsoft environment, so the URL is a little bit weird, but we can still refer to it to help us understand the anatomy of a SharePoint site. The first thing you're going to notice is that it's an HTTPS site. This lets us know that it's a modern site and it's going to need the latest version of most browsers to run. The next thing I'm going to see is the company name. For me, this is the M365X17718/452. It's quite the number, but normally this would be your company name. And also this is the URL of your tenant. Now, the next thing I'm going to see is I go over to the right, it's going to tell me that I'm in SharePoint. You'll see that it says SharePoint on SharePoint.com. This lets me know that I'm using SharePoint Online. Some companies use SharePoint but not M365. This organization uses both. The next thing I'm going to see is that I'm in a site. This means that I'm in one of the sites that is part of this company's collection of SharePoint sites. Then I finally see my site name, which is Sales and Marketing. Now within that site, if I come in and go, for example, to a document library, which I'm going to do, what we're going to notice is that my SharePoint Online URL gets additional information at the end. I'm still in the Sales and Marketing site, but if I keep going over to the right, we'll see that it's telling me I'm in shared documents. This is letting me know that I'm in a document library, which I am. If I go, for example, to a SharePoint list within that site, again, we're going to see that now I'm still in the Sales and Marketing site, but I'm looking at a list, and specifically the product list. So these SharePoint Online site URLs give us a lot of information about where we are in the site, the company that we're in, and also the SharePoint platform that we're using. And if you explore them, you get pretty familiar with, again, what they tell you about where you are in your SharePoint ecosystem within your organization. Hey everybody, welcome back. In 2016, Microsoft introduced the modern SharePoint Online experience. Previous to this time, a lot of companies were using what they call SharePoint Online Classic. Now, the modern experience was designed to be more compelling, flexible, and even available on mobile devices, easier to use. It was available in SharePoint Online and also SharePoint Server 2019 with some limitations. But there are still organizations that are using the Classic experience. On my screen right now, you're seeing a document library as viewed in the Classic experience. Some of the biggest differences are that in the Classic experience, things are a little bit more tricky to edit, and also the experience has a few functionalities that the modern experience doesn't. For example, the modern experience doesn't include some of the column types and customizations that you can make in the modern experience. Now, if you view a modern document library, we're going to see that it looks more like what we're used to seeing in a SharePoint site. Things are easier to drag and drop, and it's also going to be an experience that's a lot easier for users to come in and automatically start utilizing. With the Classic experience, it required a little bit more time to get up to speed with how to make the sites work. It's not uncommon for some organizations to have some sites that continue to have the Classic experience and then other sites that are already migrated to the modern experience. Become familiar so that you can know how to utilize both, but count on, for the most part, sites being migrated to the modern SharePoint Online experience because, again, with the modern online experience, you're going to have views, document libraries, and also lists that are optimized to make it really easy to pin, filter, and also sort, which the Classic experience, it was a little bit more difficult. Hey, SharePoint, welcome back. We want to talk about site collections. Now, in previous versions of SharePoint, like 2013, 2016, 2019, where SharePoint Server was involved, the architecture of a SharePoint site was to be a site collection. Now, site collection was a group of websites that had the same owner and same administrative settings. So that would mean things like permissions and quotas were all the same. Site collections were created in a web application like SharePoint, and they would have a top-level site that was automatically created, and then all the other sites would be called subsites. Well, as we've already talked about, we're trying to get away from subsites in SharePoint Online. Instead, what Microsoft is recommending, when you have a group of sites that are in common and managed by the same group or individual, then instead of a site collection, you create what's called a hub site. So are hub sites the new site collection? No, because they're two different things, but they accomplish a similar thing. So what exactly is a hub site? A hub site is where you unify your SharePoint site with common branding, common navigation, and everything can roll up into a centralized display. Also, hubs help to enhance content discovery by tying sites together with easy browsing. So I want to actually take you to a hub site so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to come over here and go to my global sales site. This is a site that I go to once in a while, and it is a hub site. So first of all, how do I know I'm in a hub site? Notice right below, again, my SharePoint bar at the top that includes my search bar, I see an additional navigation bar. This is, again, an indicator that you're probably in a hub site. This is the Global Sales Hub site. You'll see to the right that it gives me navigation to sites that are all common to each other. Another element of a hub site is when you go to one of the sites that's part of the hub, they all have the same branding. This can include, again, the navigation bar at the top and then also the same theme. So when I go to any of the sites that are part of the hub, I'm going to see that they all have a very similar look so that I know that I'm still in the hub experience even though I'm navigating to different sites within the hub. And again, it's very easy for me to go to the different sites of the hub. And then when I get to a different site, like when I go back to my sales and marketing site again, I'll see that in addition to my navigation for the hub at the top, this site has its own internal navigation that will allow me to go to the different parts of the site. But I can always get back out to the hub by coming to the top. And again, all of the sites within the hub have the same theme and branding so that I know that I'm still within that hub experience. So this is kind of the next phase, getting away from site collections. And again, this is also part of the idea that we want to keep our SharePoint sites very flat and avoid doing site collections that include a lot of subsites because it makes it a lot harder to manage and update content. One more thing about hub sites, a hub site needs to be created for you by one of your SharePoint admins or a global admin in M365. So keep that in mind. If you need a hub site and you want to assign some sites to it, you'll probably need to ask your SharePoint admin to enable the hub site for you. Hi everyone, we have explored a tool called a hub site, which is a way to connect certain sites with common navigation and branding to make it really easy for users to navigate between them. But now what we want to do is look at how you can manage hub sites on your own, especially if you're a site owner. So in my environment, I'm playing Megan, by the way, I have a new site that was recently created to help manage sales for the US sales team. But they also use several other sites in common with other groups in their organization. Now, currently, these sites are all organized into a hub site called Global Sales. Let's take a look at it. We're going to see here how at the top you have the common horizontal navigation representing the hub site and all the sites that are included in the hub site collection. And notice when I click on any of them, they still keep that hub site navigation at the top, and then they have the same theme to help me know that they're all part of the hub site experience. But my US sales site that's new is not currently part of that experience. So I want to get it added so it's going to make it easier for my users to get between those different sites. When I go to my US sales site, right now it's a standalone site. So how do I get it added to that hub? Well, you have to be a site owner and you also have to have permission to do so. If you're not a site owner or you don't have permission to do this, ask your SharePoint admin. They can set your site up to make it part of a hub site. I have permission to do this. So from my US sales site, I'm going to come in and go to my site settings gear. We've spent a lot of time here. Hopefully you're getting the idea of how many important options there are under this menu. Then I'm going to come down to site information. Now this is going to take me in and let me see things like the title of my site, also the privacy settings, and more importantly, what we're looking for is hub site association. Right now it says none. So to allow me to associate this with a hub site, I'd have to have permission to do so, which I do, and I need to know the name of the hub site. For me, it's Global Sales. I'm going to select that and then I'm going to click on Save. Now, one warning here, sometimes when you set up a hub site association, you will not see the hub site association come up as quickly as you want. This is something that we tell people sometimes takes a little while to bake because there can be many sites that are being associated with a hub. So when you first do this, if you notice it doesn't quite take effect as quickly as mine did, it's okay. Refresh the site, maybe log in and out a couple of times. It can take several hours for the hub site association to connect. But in our case, it happened really quickly. So it's nice. We're going to see again, now the US sales site has that common site navigation at the top and the same branding as the other sites. So we're moving a step forward in helping make it easier for those that use the US sales site to also use the other sites that are part of the hub site. As always, we want you to try this out. So if you do use SharePoint, go in and look for some Hubsites in your own organization. Hey, welcome back, SharePoint fans. Here we are talking about Hubsites. Now, this US sales site that you see on my screen right now, I recently added to the Global Sales Hubsite collection. We can see it here, but there is one critical issue. Currently, the US sales site is not part of the Hubsite collection navigation. So I need to take this US sales site and add it to the Global Sales Hubsite. Again, I have to be a site owner of the Hubsite for me to be able to do this. Megan happens to be, but if you are not, request it from your SharePoint admin or the site owner of the Hubsite. Now, first of all, I'm going to go up and take a look at the URL for my US sales site. I'm going to copy it because I'll need this URL when I go in to actually add it to the Hubsite navigation. Quick ways to copy: select it, do Control-C, right-click and copy. Any of those are going to work. They'll all get that URL on your clipboard. Now I'm going to navigate to the Hubsite. I'm going to do that by coming to the far left side where it says Global Sales. This will take me to the top of the site. Now from here, if I am a site owner of this Hubsite, I will see that on the navigation bar, I have an edit button on the far right-hand side of the site navigation. And keep in mind, this is not just within this site, this is connecting these sites together. I'm going to edit this. Now you'll see what's interesting is that the editing is not horizontal, it turns it vertically, but once I'm done editing, then it will be horizontal. Now I want to add that site to the site navigation. So I'm going to come to the bottom of the current edit hub navigation and I'll see this little plus sign in a circle. This is of course where I can add new content to the navigation bar. At the top I need to type or choose what it is that I'm adding. I'm going to be adding a link. And then in the address bar, I'm going to paste in the address of my US sales site. I need to replace the HTTP, so make sure you delete it out and then paste your URL over the top. I also need to include text to be the link in the actual navigation bar. So I'm going to type in the name of the site, then I'll click on OK. Now I'm done. I can see it here. If I would like to move it further up, I can either left drag it, or I can come in and click on this ellipses on the right-hand side and say move up or move down. And of course, this is the order that the sites will appear in from the left to the right. I'm going to click on save. Now I see if I look up here and I refresh, my US sales is here. Now it didn't quite move it over enough, so I'm going to come back in again and say move up a couple of times because I thought I did, but it looks like the change I made didn't save. So we'll move it up with the move up button and then I'll save that. Now it's updated. If I click on US sales, it takes me to the US sales site, which has the same branding and also that common navigation at the top. And if I go to any of the other sites, the users that use those sites can in turn get back to the US sales site. Notice the navigation isn't quite updating yet, and that's just because it takes a little bit of time for everything to connect. But if I refresh those other sites once I go to them, eventually the site navigation will be the same on all of them, which puts US sales here in the middle. So again, try out some Hubsites, see what they're like, play with them, because again, this is the updated way to do a site collection inside of SharePoint Online. Hey everybody, I want to be able to update some of the different facets of my site, starting with the site navigation. Do I really want this navigation bar over here at the left-hand side of my team site? Do I even want it on? These are some of the questions you can ask when you start updating the look of a SharePoint site. So where can I go to quickly make some of these changes? Well, a great doorway is of course site settings. So I'm going to go to the top right-hand corner to the white gear. And Microsoft has done a great job at putting some of these overall site navigation and look tools right here in this menu. If you come down to the bottom, we have an option that says change the look. Now this will give me 3 different primary areas that I can update in my site. We want to start with the bottom one, which is navigation. How are people accessing content on my site? Now, first of all, I can turn my site navigation off completely. Notice right here, I can say off. Save it, and now my site has no left-hand side navigation. And sometimes people will do this because they want to keep the navigation within the content of the site. Now, if we go back to site settings again and come back down to change the look at the very bottom, This time when I look at navigation, I'm going to turn the navigation back on, but I'm going to change the orientation to being horizontal. And when I do this, I get a few different styles of menus that I can pick from, but these mostly work with, again, when you have drop downs within drop downs, which I don't. But notice what's happened now. My navigation is along the top. Now, are there benefits to this? Absolutely. If my navigation is along the top, this might be something that the people I work with are more comfortable using. They're used to seeing the navigation up there, so that's where I'm going to keep the site navigation. But remember, you can always go in under Change the Look in Site Settings, and you can, again, very quickly update where your site navigation is, either horizontal or down the left-hand side. Try it out in your own sites. All right, I want to update my site navigation a little bit more. And just a reminder that to do many of these things that we're talking about with updating the look of a site, you need to be a site owner. And how can you tell if you're a site owner? Because you've heard me say that quite a bit. You need to go in your team site, because that's what we're looking at here, to your site membership. I'm going to come to the top right-hand corner to where I see a list of everyone who's either a site member or a site owner. When I click on this menu, I'm going to see all the different site owners and members. And as I look through this menu, I'm looking for myself. I'm playing Megan. And as I look through this list, I can see Megan, and under her name, it tells me she is a site owner. So this is important because sometimes you may go into a SharePoint site and try to do different things and it won't allow you. It's because of your permissions in the site. So we've ascertained that Megan's a site owner and she wants to edit, again, her navigation bar. First of all, we're going to come to the bottom of the navigation bar. This is really easy to find. There's an edit button. This will unlock the site navigation so that I can make changes to it. Notice how each item has an ellipses on the right-hand side. Hopefully you know what these are for, right? When you click on them, it gives you additional options to manage that specific item. For me, the first thing I want to do is remove the OneNote that's associated with this site. When I click on the ellipses towards the bottom of the menu, I'll see a remove option. This does not delete the OneNote from my site, it just removes the link to it from the navigation. Also, you'll see here that I can click on the ellipses and use it to move items up in the site navigation. And sometimes if things are at the top, it's easier for people to find. Finally, when I come to my site navigation, I want to go to the Documents area, and I'd like to edit that content. First of all, we're seeing that it's a link in the site navigation, and we're seeing the URL to the site. I just want to update the name. Rather than saying Documents, I'm going to update it to be Team Files, because this is what my team refers to when they're dealing with these, again, document storage for this site. We can see how it's been updated. I'll click on Save, and now I'll see that the navigation bar is back, ready to be used. And for example, the updated Team Files still takes me to my site's document library. It hasn't changed any of the navigation. It's just, again, allowing me to personalize it to the people who use my site. As always, we want you to try this out. So if you're a site owner, go into your site, try modifying your site. Hi everyone, what if I want to take my SharePoint site and really update the way it looks? Things like the color, the logo, give it a little bit more pizzazz. For that, I need to go again to my site settings. So from the site, I'm going to come up to the white gear in the top right-hand corner, click on it, and come down to change the look. Under Change the Look, this time we're going to head to the top to Theme. Think of PowerPoints when you do this. These are the different themes or color palettes that you can apply inside of a SharePoint site. And as you click on them, you can actually preview them. This is also a place in some organizations where the organization will actually create branded theme colors. So you come to this area and you might see some of them are very different. But remember, it's what looks good according to your site and also company branding. Once I'm done picking my updated look, I will click on OK, or Save, I should say, at the bottom, and we'll see that the new theme will be applied to the site. Keep in mind, sometimes if someone goes to the site and they haven't refreshed it, they may not see the new theme applied. So make sure people refresh the site, and then we'll see the updated theme inside the site. Hey everybody, welcome back to SharePoint. Nothing really recognizes a site more than its header. So what is the header of a SharePoint site? It's the area at the top of your site that's recognizable to the site and page. It is below the SharePoint taskbar at the top, but you'll notice it has a logo, it has a title, and other important information to help me understand the site. We want this to be branded. We want it to be visually appealing. So how can we help update the logo of our SharePoint site? We're going to head back to Site Settings, click on the gear, and come down to Change the Look. This time we're going to head into the header portion. Now in the header, there are 4 different layouts. Minimal, which is very thin, compact, which is a little bit taller, standard, and finally extended. Now you'll see that, for example, extended is quite tall and takes up a lot of room vertically on my site. If I want my site to not be scrolling forever, I might want to go with the compact look. It's a little bit thinner and doesn't take up as much room at the top of the page. Now under the layouts, I've got, based on the theme that I've picked for my site, the ability to customize the color applied at the top. You want this again to pop, so it's usually better to pick a darker theme color. Now below that, you can actually turn your site title off. Maybe you only want to see the theme, and notice this just takes the title off. Now, speaking of title, on every SharePoint page, you'll see that next to the title, there is a logo. If you don't provide a logo, what does Microsoft do? They will take the first letter of the first 2 words of your site name, and those become your logo. A little bit awkward, but the good news is you can change it. So as they come down, it's going to ask me for 2 different logos. One is a thumbnail and one is a site logo. The thumbnail is to represent your site when people search for it. Could you have 2 different logos here? Yes, but I recommend doing the same one for consistency. When people see that logo, you want them to recognize that it's your site. So I'm going to click on Change. I have already downloaded my logo locally to my computer. You can't go online and find logos. You've got to already have them locally downloaded. So that's why I'm going in for each one and selecting it, and we'll see it get added. Now, final thing I can do here is click on Save, because now that I've made that change, I want to be able to see that logo update in my site. And that's what we're actually seeing. So again, what we did here is we went to change the look, we went to header, and then we came down and we updated all this information for the site. And the value of this is now I have a custom header that when my users see this header in my site, they're going to recognize it and know that they're on the right site. As always, we want you to try this out. So if you're a site owner, go in and try updating the header of your own sites. All right, we're back in SharePoint land. In this site, you're going to see an example of a team site where the logo was created by Microsoft and SharePoint Online. So right here in the top left-hand corner, notice that the name of this team site is Event Planning. And so to provide a logo for the site, all they do is take the first letter of each of the words in the site name, and that becomes your logo. It works when you're first creating the site, but really having a customized logo makes your site look more professional. So we want to look at one more place you can go to update the site logo. Again, my logo, I've already got locally stored on my network or computer, so I can't go online to look for one when I add it to the site. Now to access where you can update the logo, there are 2 different places. This time we're going to go to the second one. I'm going to head back to the settings gear again, and I am a site owner, another reminder of that. From here, what I want to do is come down to site information. Now, site information is where you can do things like associate Hubsites, also customize your site description, and update the title of your site. Remember, if the site's title is updated, it does not change the URL. In this case, at the very top, you're going to see a location where you can update and change your site logo. So I'm going to click on Change, navigate to the folder where my updated logo is located, and then I'll click on Save. And you'll see that this will then replace the logo that was originally provided by Microsoft with this new logo that's what I want. So again, different ways to do the same thing, but having a customized logo really does help to better brand and make your site more recognizable. All right, guys, sometimes it happens. A SharePoint site runs its course. It's time for it to die. Or maybe sites get created and they're redundant. Two people create a site that can do the same thing. That's a bad idea. So one of them needs to go away. We want to have as few sites as possible. So again, if you've got extras, get rid of the hangnail sites. To do that, I need to be a site owner. Also, I've already done this. I'm going to click on my site settings gear. Now, before you delete a site, do you have permission to delete it? And what's going to happen to all the stuff in that site? We're talking about the documents, the calendar events, the OneNote notebooks. Sites are not just web pages. There's a lot of content there. You need to remember before you delete something that you know what's going to happen to all that additional stuff. So what I'm going to do from here is come up to my site settings gear and go down to site information. This is where we're going to see things like the name of the site, its description, also its privacy settings. But notice at the bottom above the save button, I have a delete site option. Before you delete a site, Microsoft SharePoint Online is always going to remind you about what you're doing. Notice it's telling me this will delete all the resources, including the site, the files, the conversations. Do you want that to happen? It's asking me to back that content up. Now, in this organization, there actually is a backup that's going on behind the scenes, but you don't know that's going to happen for sure in your organization. So please be sure before you delete anything, you make triple sure that stuff is backed up. Yes, I'm going to delete all the associated resources and the group. Notice that's what it's telling me. And that group refers to the Office 365 group that works in tandem with this site to help manage the calendar events, the conversations, kind of that Outlook portion that happens within a SharePoint site. I'm going to click on delete. And suddenly I don't see the site anymore. It takes me back to my SharePoint start page. And if I were to try to do a search for that site, I would see that it's not there anymore. I can't find it because the site is literally gone. So again, it's a great way to manage sites, but we've got to be super careful when we do delete a site. Hi, everyone. We want to talk about something bad that can happen, and that's when you delete a SharePoint site and you don't mean to. As a site owner, that's something all of us can do is delete a site we don't need anymore. But what if you do it accidentally and then realize you need that SharePoint site back? Really makes you feel sick, doesn't it? But it does happen. And there's no magic undo button in SharePoint. However, if you're a SharePoint admin or a global Office 365 admin, you can help. There is something there that can help restore a deleted SharePoint site. The first thing we need to do is get into the admin portal for Office 365. And again, this isn't something that everyone has access to, but I want to show you the process just so that if you work in an organization that's new to SharePoint Online, you can help them through this process. So I'm in my M365 homepage, and over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see again my navigation bar. I am an admin, a global admin actually, so I can access my Office 365 admin tools. I'm going to click on admin. It opens up a new browser tab and takes me to my M365 admin center. Now we got to realize how important SharePoint is to the Office 365 or M365 experience. It's one of the biggest platforms. So right here, if I expand this lower section of the navigation pane, I'm going to see that in the admin portal, there's a section called Admin Centers. And some of the applications, which are really more platforms, have their own separate admin section. SharePoint happens to be that way. So I'm going to click on SharePoint. Another browser tab opens, taking me to my SharePoint Admin Center. It's based on the same interface, so it has, again, the ability to expand and collapse the navigation bar. I do suggest you keep it pretty wide open the first few times you use it. One of the very first things you'll see when you come in here is that for SharePoint, I have sites. I have active sites. These are the sites that are currently being used in the organization. And then I have deleted sites. Well, I recently deleted that event planning site. And if you recall, I didn't mean to. So my SharePoint admin can come in, select the site, and notice up here, there's a restore button. The other thing I want to call out is that currently we'll see that sites are retained for 93 days. So I have a 93 or a 3-month retention policy, and then they're permanently deleted. If you click right here on Learn More, it will take you in and give you a more in-depth description of what's happening. So this just tells me that deleted SharePoint sites will be retained for 93 days, After 93 days, the site and all its content will be permanently deleted. This will include libraries, lists, pages, and any subsites. So it's pretty specific. I've selected my site. I'm going to click on Restore. Notice this tells me this site is connected to an Office 365 group. Restoring the site will also restore the group, which means that all that great email content will be available to me. Notice it's no longer here under deleted sites. If I come back into active sites, scroll down and look for event planning, it's back where it was before. So it's not an undo button, but again, SharePoint Online admin can help save the day if you are within that retention policy. Welcome back, everybody. What if you are in a SharePoint site and someone makes a change to one of your site pages or a document library, anything in a site, and it's not a change that you like? What can you do? Well, built into M365 and also your SharePoint sites, you have a tool called version history. Every time a user goes into a site and makes a change or an update, it saves those changes under that user as a version. And you can actually go in and revert back to a previous version if someone's made a change that you don't approve of. As a site owner, I'm looking at my Market project team, and I recently made a change to this site by adding this different styled header at the top or this text with an image underneath. I don't like it. I want to revert back to the way the site page looked before the change was made. The first thing I need to do is access my site pages. To do this, I need to go into a place of SharePoint in my site called Site Contents. It's kind of like going to the basement or the utility room of your site, and it's a great way to see what kinds of content are within the site. To do this, we're going to go back up to Site Settings. We're going to come down to Site Contents. Now in the Site Contents list, I'm going to see that I have contents and subsites, and the different elements of my site are listed here, including site pages. This would show me the individual pages of my site. Now right here, I have my home page. This was the page that I updated. And again, changes were made to this page that I don't like. So next to the name of the page, I'll see a vertical ellipses. We all know what that does. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to come down and go to version history. Every time someone has been in the site, or I should say in the page, it shows me the date and time and then also the user. I'm the one who, again, updated the page, and I do not approve of it. So what I'm going to do is go back to Lynn's version, click on the ellipses, or in this case, the arrow, next to the date and time that that particular version was created. I can view properties of that version, restore it, or delete it. In my case, what I want to do is restore it. So I'm going to click on the restore button. Notice what it tells me. I'm about to replace the current version with the selected version. I'm going to click on OK. Now I'm in a 2.1 version. I'm going to go ahead and close out, and then I'm going to leave my site contents view by just clicking on my site logo. That'll take me to the top of my site. Now I'm going to see that when I come to it, it's reverted back to the previous version, which is different than the way the site looked before. But this version history being, again, part of your site pages is a really great way if changes are being made to know that you can always revert back to a previous one if something gets changed and you don't like it. So go into a site of your own and check out the version history in one of your site pages. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this SharePoint Online training. We've covered a lot of territory, everything with how to access SharePoint Online from your Office 365 homepage to utilizing the SharePoint Start page as a great way to follow sites that you access a lot and also navigate to different parts of your SharePoint platform. We've even spent some time exploring different kinds of SharePoint sites, team sites that allow groups of people to come together, communicate, and collaborate, and communication sites that help us to share information. We've also spent time using the site settings gear to get familiar with great tools like changing the look, accessing our site information to help start making edits to our sites once they're created. We even spent some time deleting sites and looking at how a SharePoint admin could go in and restore that site. As always, we want you to join us for more courses in the future, and thanks for being here for SharePoint Online.